because you want your friends to want you to be successful also. So it's like you want to kind of create the energy that you want to see on your team. And if everyone's just out for themselves, then it's not going to be a really fun team to be on. It can become really overwhelming because you're looking at people around you who are seemingly like doing everything perfectly, but the reality is they're not. They're just not always talking about the things that they're not doing perfect.
All right. So today I'm really glad I'm able to invite my friend Gordon Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
He used to work in a same internship with me.
Mm-hmm.
He's a student at Pomona College, and I'm ready to see you here.
Yeah.
I'm doing this channel because I feels like I have 1,000 fun stories to tell, and now I'm collecting another 1,000 fun story from others. I really listen. I want to listen more about the other people's real story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the difference between the real life and the movie, right?
Yeah.
So I want to record this kind of stuff to help the other people around me to uh, be able to benefit from something from this kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure, let's begin.
Sweet.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Gordon Kenny. I'm 22 years old. I'm a senior at Pomona College. I'm studying computer science. I worked with John over the summer for an internship that was remote, working in website development. I'm a student athlete at Pomona College, and I'm on the swim team there. And so it's my last year doing that. But I've been a competitive swimmer since I was just a kid. So yeah.
Wow, I don't have the experience like being on a swim team ever.
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel? What did you learn from it? Or
Well, I was always on a summer swim team when I was younger. So, for the first, starting when I was 5, I did swim team every summer with my brothers, and that was really low key. We didn't have to commit a whole lot for that. It was mainly just in the summer go every morning for an hour and swim, and we had a meet once a week that we would go to, and then a championship at the end. It wasn't really until I was 10 that I joined a more serious swim team that was year-round training. When I started out, I didn't have as much training per week, but as I got older, it progressed to everyday practice for 2 hours at least, except for having Sundays off, and it would pretty much go the whole year, except for in August when I would have just a few weeks without it. So definitely by the time I was graduating high school, I was pretty used to just being constantly busy or constantly training for something. It got me really used to, I don't know, being competitive in a fun way and not just in like a stressful way, because it's hard for like your brain to wrap itself around being fiercely competitive all the time with people. It's just not sustainable. So I made a lot of good friends on my team, people who I was competitive with, but also was able to collaborate with. And it was good, and it led me here. When I initially started swimming, I didn't really imagine that it would get me a place in college to go to, especially at a good school like Pomona, but it definitely opened to this door for me, and so for that I'm very grateful, and it's been a wonderful time here so far.
yeah, you mentioned something I'm really interested in, like the competitive and collaboration at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel? You know, being on the team, being competitive to attend competition. How you handle the stress? How did you handle lots of exercise and also collaborate with each other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. It takes years. It's when you start out when you're younger, obviously you're very competitive with those. You're just like, I just want to win. Like that. That was all I cared about when I joined. Was like, I want to win. I didn't care what my times were, or like if I was having personal growth. It was just about if I could beat other people. But it's like quickly like you start to become friends with people during practice and stuff and things like that. and then you get kind of these conflicting feelings where it's like, oh, I'm friends with this person, I like this person, but I want to beat them. Like I don't want them to succeed, and so you kind of get that like conflicting feeling of like, oh, like I want to beat you, but also you're my friend, so I want you to do well. So eventually, like, and I think what I've spent a lot of time, especially in college, working on is just being like, I'm focusing on my own goals and my own achievements, and other people are doing the same thing. So it's and it's better. It's better to want them to succeed, because them succeeding really doesn't mean that I can't succeed. Like yeah, it's only one person, so it's like the only like if it really comes down to it, that person is only going to take you down like one notch if they beat you, but also you could beat them and do the same thing to them. So it's really it takes a long time to wrap your head around, and it's there always is going to be that little element of competition where it's like, even with my best friends who I live with, because I live with all swimmers, I'm just like, yeah, of course I want to beat you guys. Like, like I'm not like about to like bend over. Like
But
it's just like,
competing in a happy, good way, right?
yeah, in a fun way. It's fun to be competitive, and it's fun to want to win. It's fun to want to beat your friends, but it's also there's a line that I think where like you still want your friends to be successful, and I think that that is because you want your friends to want you to be successful also. So it's like you want to kind of create the energy that you want to see on your team, and if everyone's just out for themselves, then it's not going to be a really fun team to be on.
Yes, that's really awesome. I feels like at Pomona College, does the atmosphere at the Pomona really encourage you to help each other and support each other?
At Pomona College, yes, I would say so in some ways. Like, I think the classes are pretty collaborative, and then there also is mentor sessions and all of these things where you're meant to help each other out. With that being said, it is still competitive in the sense that everyone is trying to get jobs, especially with the job market right now being so competitive. Like everyone's trying to get a job, and when people get a job, like definitely they feel good about it, and it's just one of those things where that is probably the most competitive aspect of being here, is what comes next. People are more than happy to help each other with what we're working on right now with our classes and stuff like that, and with sports and all that thing, all those things and clubs. So I'd say yes, like 90%. It's a very supportive place, but there definitely is that element of toxic competitivity.
I can feel you.
Yeah.
What did you, especially one thing, like, after you come to Pomona College, is number 3 in the nation for liberal art.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many people like come here with the awards. In the past, when you are in high school, you were outstanding, but when you come here, you find out so many people are also outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle those feelings? I think this is really good. What the newcomers, the new students need to know. How did they handle this kind of the change and the environment? How did you really be able to not be frustrating and have good mental health to continue your education?
Yeah, well, it's totally, and it goes right in with swimming. That it's like, how do you manage, like, I've been like swimming competitively and training for like 12 years, 13 years, like year round. And like there are still people that I train with every day that are going to beat me. I'm still like, there's always going to be people that are better. And so I think being around the people and being like directly next to the people that are better can kind of make you face that a little bit more. And that's definitely what being at Pomona has done for me. Like, and like, so we had someone come in from, it was like a sports therapist type person 2 years ago. And he was talking about this exact topic, pretty much like, you guys go to a school where everyone is like top 1% of the country. Like everyone's overachieving. You had to be an overachiever to get here. And tying that in with sports, it's like you're overachieving in sports, like you've done very well, like you're able to compete at the college level, all that stuff, but like you have to focus on the positive side of things. You have to be like, I am here, like I'm doing my work, I'm swimming, like everything is going well. But if you focus on the negative things, like, oh, I did bad on this one test, oh, I had a bad meet, I did all this stuff, like it can become really overwhelming because you're looking at people around you who are seemingly like doing everything perfectly, but the reality is they're not. They're just not always talking about the things that they're not doing perfect. Um, and yeah, I think that that is an important thing that I've learned.
Exactly, because when you feel someone is perfect,
Mhm.
probably you're not close enough to them.
Yes, yes, that is very true. Like anytime I've thought somebody had it perfect or was perfect, like there's always something more to see, and like everything really takes sacrifice. And like we had this one girl on our team who is just really smart. She, I think, had a 4.0 GPA. She was very fast, very talented, gifted swimmer, would go and place very highly at nationals. I think almost won. And so seemingly perfect, but there were sacrifices that she had to make to do those things. Like she went to bed very early every night, woke up very. She really didn't go out and party much. She didn't spend as much social time with the rest of the team as some of my other friends, and as much as I would want to do. So it's just one of those things where yes, someone can seem perfect, but there's always something that they're doing to get that way. And you have to consider for yourself, like, instead of coming at it from a jealous approach, it's like, oh, is it worth it for me to try and do that too, or is it better for me to go in a different path? And I think
you mentioned
that,
a really good point, the
yeah.
jealous approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel it because when people look at the friends around them, they will have different perspective. One of the things you mentioned is like jealous. You feel somebody is going to overcome you, however, so they feel sad and they even try to stop other people. But there's also another kind of mindset, like, you know, we are built by the 5 people around us.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a close friend, get better, and you get better as well. That's what I'm thinking. And my friends also tell me that to do that, you got to into the right group and find the right person as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really need this kind of environment really bring ourselves together and make a way much better team and make everybody even better.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I think that it is in some ways difficult to find a good group of people, whether that's friends, teammates, classmates, whatever, people who are going to be on your side, people who aren't people who aren't secretly hoping that you perform worse than them. Like, because I think that no one wants to be in a group of people where they feel like people are rooting against them, that they are rooting for themselves to succeed and for you to, like, not necessarily fail, but to just do worse than them, you know? So, and I think, again, I'll tie this back to swimming and, like, the team I went to before college, and it was a different vibe back then because, you know, people are swimming and their results directly impact where they can go to school, where they can compete. So, like, for me, I was very middle of the road. Like, I could have gone to D1 and been on the lower end of speed there, or I could have gone to D3 and be on the upper end of speed here. And so I chose to go to D3. I felt like the vibe would just be better here because it's less of that, like, swimming solely for results, because we've all already achieved the results that we've wanted in terms of swimming. So the team atmosphere here has just been so much better than what it was before, because we all know that we're just swimming at this point because we want to and because it's fun and it's because we like our team a lot. And so when we are cheering for each other, people believe it. And I think that that's kind of an important thing, is that, you know, when you're part of a team and when people are expressing that they want their teammates to succeed, like, it needs to be believable. And there's different ways of making that happen. And I think it's just like spending time, like actually having those situations where people outperform each other and seeing how you react in those situations is important. So I think competition really is an important part of making collaboration happen. Like, I think if I was going to talk about this in an academic sense, like, it's important in classes that you should have grades and that you should have some metric of understanding how you're doing. Like, if you have a really good test, like, you should know that. If you have a poor test, you should know that. And then how your friends react, not necessarily like you're telling your friends like your exact scores, but it's like, oh, I did poorly, oh, I did well. Like, you want that to be like, if your friend does poorly, like, you want it to be that you want to help them. Like, and it's nice that in a lot of classes at Pomona, it's not on a curve, so that if someone does better than you, that doesn't impact how good you can do. I think when teachers grade on curves and when people grade strictly competitively like that, or even in the workplace where it's like only one person can get this or something like that, like, or there's going to be a person at the top and a person at the bottom no matter what, kind of like, I think that approach really disincentivizes and kills collaboration, because people don't want their friends to succeed, because then it's directly hurting their chances to do well. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like after I come to Claremont colleges, the 100% thing I really like is the really being supported. I feel like after here the environment are way much better supported compared to before. Especially I joined the CCPDC, the dance club at Pomona College.
Yeah.
And the team Dr. Machine created. We support each other, and we really screaming and shouting when other people are dancing very well. We will support and be happy for them, and we can see other people showcase their fancy moves and very awesome skills. It's really wonderful. And then we go and ask them how do they do it, and ask them to teach me, and we all both getting better.
Yeah.
That's absolutely really good. And my friend all mentioned it as well. I used to have a friend at CGU study museum management, and he told me after he come to CGU he's made much more happier, because in the past when he at another different school, he feels like the environment here is so heavy, it's like stone, and he's not pleasant over there. Then he come to CGU, and Drucker is also a place that's really supportive. The professor over there, they really listen. Listen is not an easy trade in a lot of places.
I mean, yeah, to listen, like, you really have to be invested in what the other person is saying, and it's also, there's different kinds of listening. There's active listening, there's passive listening. I think active listening is such a good skill, but it's not something that is static. Like, if you can have active listening in some places and then not in others. So like, again, going back to working in like a team, like you want to be on a team where people are actively listening to each other, where people are taking into account what each other is saying, and not just being like, this is how it's going to be. I know what's best. Like, do you have any thoughts? But like, I'm still going to do what I want regardless. And I think the 5 Seasons does a great job of like having professors that do mostly listen. Of course, there's always professors, and there's always people wherever you go. There's always teammates or co-workers that people don't work well with and that are difficult. And I think that that's another skill that being on a team and being in college teaches you, is how to deal with difficult people, but also how to not be a difficult person yourself. I think is a good one too.
Yes, that's a really good point. When I was in military school, I realized that, because in the past I was trying to help everybody. I made it to second lieutenant in school rank, and I managed around 82 people. And I was trying to make some policy change to help everybody to make our troops more efficient, everybody more happy, a better schedule. But some people just don't satisfy, and I go to ask them, listen to their advice. However, they don't tell me any advice. They're just not happy. And I was like really astonishing. Like, I list the advantage we have by changing this schedule, and this can. The other people are complaining about this, but we can do the better in this way. We have better performance, and by doing so, we get a better score, and we can get a morning break or something like that. But they just don't listen, don't want to. And I asked them, can you give me a better solution? Is there anything better in your mind? And they don't have it. So I really feel like when you're saying, no matter what, there will be some people like that.
Yes.
So.
And also I think that it goes to like, some people think that listening means that I have to do what you told me because I listened to you. Like, no. Like, listening is listening. Like, you are hearing what they have to say. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do something. And so I think what I hear a lot these days is people being like, oh, I don't feel heard by the, like, I don't feel heard by the college, I don't feel heard by XYZ. And I push back on it sometimes. I'm like, well, did someone talk to you? Like, and yes, there are situations where someone is just trying to like dismiss everything you're saying, but there's also a lot of situations where someone is listening to you, like someone is trying to support you and hear what your problem is and help you out, but they're not able to accommodate you. And I think that when people say like, oh, I don't feel heard in that situation, it's like, well, that's not true. Like, you were heard, but you just couldn't be like, your request couldn't be accommodated. And that's another thing. It's like, you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible. And sometimes when you ask for things, like, you always want to ask for the things that you want, like, but you have to be prepared to not get them and to have to figure out another way around it, which I think is important. So in your situation, like, this person wanted something or a specific thing, like outcome, and you're like, I hear you, but I can't, like, I'm already doing the best thing that I can. Like, if you have any suggestions for something that would work better for everyone, then that would be great. But I think that's a really common thing where it's what works best for some doesn't work best for most, and so you have to go with what works best for most, and then for the other ones, they have to adapt. There's nothing else, and like, there can be concessions made here and there, but it's just one of those things about working on a team. Like, if someone, like, if you're really good, like, again, with swimming, like, if I'm really good at butterfly, which is my main stroke, but we have 5 other guys that are really good at butterfly, then maybe I'm doing something else. Like, maybe I have to do something else because maybe I'm not the best on our team in that stroke, and so maybe I have to do something that isn't my best, but is best for the team.
That's awesome. So, from your point of view, what's the most important thing you should do to stay both competitive? You gain benefit from competitive and team collaborative.
I think, well, I'm going to talk about confidence because this is something our team has been talking about a lot the last couple of years. It's just about how to be confident and to be confident in your ability to perform and swim fast and perform academically and all this stuff. And there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and I think some of them go back to our culture. It's just that we don't really value confidence as a trait the way that, you know, we want to as a culture, and that people view confident people as cocky, arrogant, and all these words that are kind of thrown on people who are confident and very self-assured in their abilities. And I think that one thing that was really important for me to hear was that you should think highly of yourself. You should, like, it is not a bad thing to view yourself as you know, the best person that you can be, and as someone that's very capable of doing like all sorts of tasks. I think that where people get all these negative associations with arrogance and with overconfidence is when people then take that away from themselves and be like, oh, everyone else is worse than me type thing. And I think the important distinction is that being confident in yourself doesn't mean that you think that everyone else is worse than you, doesn't mean that you think that no one else can do anything as well as you can. It just means that you know that you can perform to the best of your ability, and you might need other people's help to do that, but you are going to be the best help and support to your team, yourself, and whatever project you're trying to do, if you are confident and if you believe that you are the best person for that job.
Okay, awesome. So now let's wrap it up. And there's one question from previous speaker. His name is Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked, how did you apply the skills you learned to real life? You know, how did you apply the skill you learned in school to real life?
I think that, well, the swimming, like, I count that as part of my education, so I apply that all the time, just because so many of my interpersonal skills have come from that sport, and just being able to work with people, being able to understand when I'm right and when I'm wrong, and when to concede and when not to concede and when to push back. when not to push back. A lot of those things are developed from understanding how far my own expertise goes, and what those limits are, where I actively should be trying to push my limits and gain more knowledge, and like where I don't really like need to be pushed, or want to be pushed at the moment. And those can be things that are maybe things that we want to work on later, but not right now. And so I think it applies directly back to school and to work and all that stuff. It's really just about working with other people to get what you want. It's always going to be more effective if you work in a group. Like, groups learn better than just people by themselves, no matter how smart you are. That was one thing in high school. I always was one of the higher achieving students in class, and so I kind of got into this mindset. It's like, I don't need to work with anyone. I don't want to work with anyone, because I just feel like I could do it better by myself. But being in college, and especially going to a place like Pomona, and always having been on a swim team too, it's just like, no, like I am not the best person for every job. Like, I am not able to do every job on my own. Like, it is much better, and I become better at all the things that I do when I'm around other people who are there to push me. So, and that's kind of an uncomfortable feeling, but it's that discomfort that makes you better at things. So I think that's been my biggest takeaway from like all of education, pretty much. It's just that I should, in order to push myself to be smarter, faster, stronger, whatever, I need other people, and I need to, I need to want to see that in other people for it to manifest itself in me, I guess. But it's a complicated topic, so
yeah, really good.
I don't know how well I explained it, but
yeah, you explained it really well. That's kind of answer I really want for yeah. So if you are going to ask the next speaker a question, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Okay, next speaker a question. Let's see. I would say, like, yeah, how would you handle like a situation where it is strictly competitive, where there is a loser and a winner and everyone in between? Yeah, like how would you handle that situation? Like, I don't know. If we need a scenario, like, imagine that your pay is based on how well you perform on a test, and there's like 12 people in the class or something like that.
That's gonna be living the rural jungles.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, how do you handle like very competitive situations like that, where you know that you probably need help from other people, but it's a lot harder to ask for that help. There's reasons to not ask for help, and to not work in a group. Like, how does one navigate that, I guess?
All right. Good. Thank you very much for today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, John.
It's wonderful. I can listen to you. You give me a lot of new insight and idea, and you really explain very well.
I appreciate it. I did my best.
That's great. Good answers. Thank you very much. And that's the end of the conversation. And it's nice to have you listen to our conversation. And have a good night.
All right. Good night.